Welcome to the New England Outdoor Life Podcast, where stories, traditions, tips, and tricks come to life by way of those who hunt, fish, guide, trap, and track all over this beautiful region. Join us as we celebrate the outdoor spirit of New England, the New England Outdoor Life Podcast.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to New England Outdoor Life Podcast. I'm Captain Matt, and here with Andy tonight.
Here with Andy.
I
have a lot to say, so be excited.
Still kicking after all the hours you've been running in the wonderful rescue world lately.
Been a couple.
Yeah. God bless you, brother. We've got to do something in this nation to get better at coverage. And if you're a listener out there and you've got time to volunteer and fire an EMS in your neighborhood, please, I beg you to step up. And I'm at year 34 of it myself. So that being said, we've got two different gentlemen in house with us tonight, and we're going to talk about all things turkey hunting. So I want to introduce Chris Halsey and Mr. Morgan Govea from the National Wild Turkey Federation. How you doing, guys?
Good. You've been practicing my last name, haven't you?
I listened to you the other night, and I said, I want to make sure I get the pronunciation right down just right.
He got here early tonight, and he just kept saying it. I was like, Matt, we need to talk. No, I got to say this.
Like a broken record on repeat.
Gotta get it. Driving all the way over here, say it. No, I'd be the first to say that I can stick my foot in my mouth very easily, but just trying to make sure doing two introductions in one night is enough.
You're good.
But Chris, you're a taxidermist and a busy lad that's just gotten your feet wet in that business.
Yep. In my second year full time doing that, it's an adventure. It's people talk about building a business. It's not for the weak of heart.
That's for sure. An understatement. I'm in year 16, so I get it, brother.
Yeah.
It takes some time for things to grow, and
it does.
It's as much as balancing your lifestyle along with your schedule and your family. So
yep, absolutely.
Yep. Well, you've got some great artwork down there. Compliment you on what you've done and what you've built.
I appreciate that.
And Morgan, you're into a little bit of everything under the sun, from podcasting to your business, and you're a contractor, correct?
Yeah, I do plumbing.
Yep.
I started my business. I'm on year 2 of my plumbing. He started his business not but a couple months after I think I started.
Yeah, we were within
mine.
a couple months of each other.
Yeah, and then I have, she'll be 2 in 6 days, I think. So I have one older daughter that's going to be 2 in a couple days. And then I have, it's kind of crazy how this all worked out, but one was born on the 5th and one was born on the 6th, obviously of different months. But I got one that's turning 8 months old. So that's been pretty busy. 2 under 2 has been a handful. And then starting a new business, and I don't have a secretary or anything, so I do all of my own paperwork.
One-man show.
And
I get it. That's with me. I tell everybody I'm the boat driver, the fish cleaner, the scheduler, all in one shot. And it's a balance.
You got to be motivated for sure, because it's, man,
it's
it can be a lot.
People think you got your own business, you must have the life. And they think, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes and the evenings and the emails and everything else. And this is probably business number 3, if you will, that I've gotten tied into in the different avenues of the outdoor world, but still involved with fire and EMS too. So I get it. And my rugrat, as you guys have known, Logan is now 23.
You're right.
And he adds to the daily events of what's going on. He's got the time to hunt and fish that I don't anymore.
Right.
I just live vicariously through him. But I had chatted with you, Morgan, throughout social media in the last couple of weeks, and had attended your banquet in the last couple of years. You guys have done a fabulous job. And I thought a great chance at, as folks are listening, we're still at the tail end of February, but before we know it, we're going to be hearing gobbling going on.
Oh, absolutely.
And spring's approaching. So first off, let's talk about your turkey hunting lifestyle, guys. How much have you done around the country, just here in the Northeast? Or
I've pretty much done the Northeast. I've made it to Ohio before, but pretty much just the Northeast myself. I haven't done a great deal of traveling. I know some people have, like locally, but
right. Yeah, I want to say, I think this is going to be going on. I think this is probably like my 19th or 20th season. And I've been I want to say like 17 or 18 states I have hunted. I've taken turkeys in 13 states.
Good for you.
It really originally started like really before the whole like 49 state chasing thing came about. My buddy and I, we were young. We were in our early 20s. I mean, I'm only 35, so most guys are listening to that and they're like, "Oh yeah, young."
Yeah.
But we were in our early 20s. Neither one of us had been outside in New England, and we were like, we both loved to turkey hunt, and we were, I mean, inseparable when we were younger, and we used to rabbit hunt all the time together. We used to do everything together, and we were like, you know what? What's an inexpensive trip that we can take that we're both good at, that we love to do, and we can go see some of the country? Like we just wanted to see something new. So we decided we were going to plan a turkey hunt, and both of us were like, you know, what do we want to do? And we were like, let's go hunt Merriam's.
Sure.
We want to see those white tips. So we ended up planning this hunt to go out to Wyoming, and that's when it all started for us. And that's when the kind of, what's crazy is we started talking about this idea of, you know, once we started having fun doing it and we started hitting more and more states, we kind of were like, you know, how fun would it be if you could kill a turkey in every state?
Sure.
And then it wasn't like 2 years later, all of a sudden this book came out of the United States, or I can't even remember the name of it. And now it's just the 49 state U.S. Super Slam has just absolutely ate up everybody. Everybody's trying to do it. And no fault to anybody for it. And I'm not saying this in a bad way, but when it became like so like everybody wanted to do it, it almost lost its allure to us. You know what I mean? It wasn't, so it was more about just us spending the time and going places. Would I still love to achieve it? Yeah, I think it would be a great goal, but at the place I'm at in my life right now, it's just not a priority.
Yep.
But
I've been kind of the same way. I've shot Easterns in 6 or 7 different states, but at 23, Logan has now surpassed me in the number of birds.
Right.
Ironically, he missed birds like his first 3 or 4 years in a row youth hunting. And then when it clicked, and now he's hitting 2 or 3 states a year. Yeah. He got his first Merriam's in Montana, and I haven't shot anything but Eastern. So he's already surpassing and just doing it for fun, you know, and shooting 6 or 8 birds a year, just hunting New York, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So, you know, it's one of those things where having the time, I would love to do the slam, not all 49 states, but just the species, you know?
Right. Yeah, but just a grand slam.
Yeah. But for me, it's also picking where do I have the time and the money, because I want to do a muley hunt, I want to do another elk hunt, you know, and trying to decide where do I travel.
Right.
So.
I would 100% agree with you, because that was like, I don't know, it had to been like around the 2018 mark. Like I was always a deer hunter, but then all of a sudden I shot like my first really nice buck, and then all of a sudden I got bit by the deer bug, and I'm like, oh God. It just became one of those things. Then I was so focused on something else, but that love has always been there for turkey hunting. Like it was, I didn't kill a deer the first year I went deer hunting. I killed a turkey, I take that back. I worded that wrong. I killed a deer the first year I went deer hunting. I did not kill a turkey the first year I went turkey hunting, but there was something about hearing that first guy. And I can remember the exact place. I can remember exactly where I was sitting and where I heard it from. And I'll just never forget. It was like a switch snapped inside of me. And I was like, man.
I'll tell you that my dad and I went out to Montana, my first big trip that I've ever done in 2009. And I took him out there as a Father's Day gift for putting me through college. And there was a hunter there who at the time was a return client for the outfitter we went through. And ironically, in the same town that Logan guides in now, in the same region. And this guy was from Jacksonville, Mississippi. And we were talking about elk hunt. We went out on a general season hunt Thanksgiving week, mainly deer hunting. There was a few elk around, but he said to me, "So you ever been on an elk hunt?" And I said, "Nope." He says, "You turkey hunting?" And we said, "Oh yeah, I mean, definitely." He said, "Come out and chase an 800-pound animal that screams like a turkey at 20 yards. He goes, "You'll never chase another turkey in your life." So that draw, having that animal communicate and talk to you. Yeah. And when Logan first got bit, calling out there every day, he was sending me audios in the woods and then listen to bulls screaming. And oh my God, hair just stand up back of my neck. You know, just so tickled for him to be there during that peak, you know, time. You know,
right.
So. But yeah, it's once you get bit, it's there.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a proud dad moment too.
Yeah,
it's the stuff you always worked for, but now he's getting to enjoy it. It's
Yep.
like your legacy is still living on through your son.
Sure.
So
And he's realizing the growing pains of life choices.
Yep.
His business back here is a year-round income where the guiding's fun, but it's very seasonal, as we all know.
Right.
And he had to make a choice. Do I eat peanut butter and jellies for a while and move to Montana, or do I try and travel? And 2 seasons of traveling, and he says, Dad, he says he really stewed on this for 6 weeks before he told me he wasn't going back.
yeah.
And he's got the license like anything, and the outfitter family he works with have said, you're welcome to come out, even if you only want to do 3 weeks of trips each year. Just, we'd love to have you here.
Right.
And we, without a doubt, are going to go back out and hunt with them. But he's doing more work right now with his business here than they ever have.
Right.
Doing landscaping and sugaring. So, him and his partner got plenty going on, and the decision to stay here, and a girlfriend that
I was
has
going to
been
say,
with for quite a while.
You got a girl into the mix. That makes it a little hard.
He started dating Cadence a month before the Harrisburg show last year. And we got down and we spent 4 days with Josh and Morgan. His wife's name is Morgan.
Yeah.
At their booth down in Harrisburg. And on Sunday, I said something about Cadence. And Morgan's head spun on the swivel. And she looked at Logan. She goes, you got a new girlfriend? He goes, kinda. She looked at Josh. That's it. We're losing another guide. So we talked about it all the way back home. And sadly, she wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
There was a big piece of that. Cadence was going to go back out with him this fall and spend a week and learn the area. And literally, he 2 weeks before he was supposed to have gone out in August, him and his partner had a long talk, and he says, Dad, this isn't happening. I'm staying here. Okay, it's your choice.
Right.
That's what life's about. So
That I will say this in self-experience, that was the worst decision I ever made when I graduated. I knew that I didn't want to go to college because I didn't want to put my parents in debt. And I didn't want to put myself in debt, mainly for the reasons because I had no idea what I wanted to go to school for.
Sure.
And 2, I just knew from all the kids that I'd seen that had committed to colleges that came out of college and never went into a field that they went to college for.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, why do I want to waste my time doing that? So I started diving into more and more stuff, and I ended up finding this guide school outside. But my homebodiedness at a younger age, like if I had the mind I have now to the mind I had then, now, I mean, obviously my mind's family now, family, and do what I can when I can. But if I had the mind at 18 that I had when I was in my like mid 20s, my God, that's what I would have done. Sure. I would have been out there guiding and doing all that stuff.
And that's where a lot of the groups, they've got 2 local guides that are from Montana. A lot of them are younger guys that have come with them. Josh and Morgan are from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And the young guys didn't have any life other than grasping into that guide world out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, I took 4 years off before I went to college and decided fire service is what I wanted. And at the time, my wife and I gave it a 2-year timeline, if you will, of testing with fire departments around the Northeast. And we said, listen, at that point, if nothing happens, we wanted to stay in New England too. Luck would have it, Burlington, Vermont hired me, and then the rest is history. But, it's making those choices of where you're going to plant your roots.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
We could talk all night long about, the travels and different choices and things to go. And but it's that time of year where there's a lot of banquets going on, from Trout Unlimited to DU to National Wild Turkey Federation, and great time to talk about the conservation efforts that I felt there was some awesome topics that people are thinking about. How can they get involved? I have been on the Green Mountain chapter of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation for going on, well, it'd be 16 years because it was the year I got my captain's license. So when I joined with them, and I joined Trout Unlimited 2 years ago. And so, a lot of those networking with people that are like-minded in the outdoor world, but the missions that each individual organization has, and that's what I really wanted to talk to you guys tonight, was about NWTF and their mission. So let us know and tell us what they're all about.
All right. Well, one of them is our conservation efforts throughout the country, Northeast. And one big one that we have is the hunting heritage. Morgan and I both talk about it all the time. It's getting the next generation more involved, especially. That's where we need it. That's our recruitment for the future, is getting the young people involved. And that's kind of it's kind of taken a back seat in today's world with young people. A lot of kids want instant gratification, and it's, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we don't have enough people kind of teaching them that this is a great lifestyle, because even a lot of people as adults, they get closer to, they have kids, they kind of even get out of it a little bit. And then they are out of it long enough. They're not teaching their kids like, hey, this is a great lifestyle to be a part of.
Yeah. Andy did an interview with youth deer hunter when I was up in Maine.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of your favorite ones you've done so far.
Yeah, it's Wesley.
Yeah. It's just to listen to Wesley's story.
Yeah, the excitement. Good grief.
Yeah.
You'd have thought he won $1 billion
Oh,
when he
absolutely.
started
Those
talking
are the
about
good
it. And this
ones.
is months later that he's
Yeah.
like still just reliving it every day of his life, sort of thing.
And we've talked about hopefully making it all work to interview some youth on turkey hunting this year. And knowing what you guys have done with Sean and the Middletown Springs project.
Yep.
Logan took 2 youth with one of his buddies last year. They double tagged on Lundbeards on the second setup in the morning in the same sit, and I'm learning that I'm trying to find a balance between doing my guiding fishing, but also putting some passion into other things too. And I'm really going to hopefully make that weekend work this year to go out and film with those boys and just be, guys, forget I'm here. I want to get those moments, and be able to build for stuff we're doing here.
Right.
And turkey hunting is a great way to get a kid involved because it is action packed. Even if you don't get a chance at a bird or a lot of times even see a bird, you get to hear them.
Yep.
Right.
And that
The weather's nicer.
it's starting to warm up. That keeps their interest just hearing a turkey.
Right.
Sure.
And we happen to live in a time period right now where most of the northern New England states are at a very healthy population that the yield is high.
Sure.
So kids associate that higher yield with the instant gratification that they can get from their phones or video games and stuff like that. So it is a very good introduction. And the other thing that I've noticed that turkey hunting does too is it's a gateway for kids, because a lot of times what you run into is a kid might not, especially females, might not want to shoot a deer because they're cute.
Yep.
But all of a sudden they shoot a turkey and it gets the wheels turning. Like, oh, well, that wasn't as hard or as bad as I thought it was going to be. Maybe I will try deer hunting. So it's kind of it's a great gateway to the sport. And this is something I actually wanted to hit on. I just came back from the NWTF convention down in Nashville.
Yep.
And the sport, in my mind, actually, I hate calling hunting a sport because it's not. It is a heritage, but it's growing. This is the 3rd or 4th year in a row that they have absolutely, I think it's the 3rd year in a row that they have absolutely pretty much annihilated their past year's attendance.
Yep.
I think it went from like 73 or 74,000 to 82,000 this year for a 3-day weekend show, which is
awesome?
crazy when you think Harrisburg is only the week before.
Sure.
And that's a
week-long
show.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you that, I mean, the NWTF is making huge waves in what they do. And I could pull it up on the website and try to read the mission word for word. I'm not an encyclopedia. I don't really remember stuff that well. I just know that the basics of how the NWTF works is you have your local chapters like we have here in Vermont. Those chapters work from a super fund. Mm-hmm. So anything made from our banquets or other events, like we hosted for a couple years, we had a golf tournament. Really, the golf tournament started in 2020 when however the government restrictions or your local government only allowed so many people and it had to be an outdoor event. So we tried to come up with other ways to fulfill our banquet needs with an outside event. So, and then we tried to keep the golf tournament going, but it becomes a lot. And the other thing I want to touch on is like what you and Andy were talking about when we started is volunteers.
Sure.
To a fault, us as people, and the people that are going to get mad at what I'm about to say are only mad because they're in denial, is we're very selfish with our time.
Absolutely.
We think that our time is only ours. And when you think that way is when we start to lose things. Like we put on a banquet in 2022 that, and you were at that one.
You were at that
we
one.
went to a new, and we've bounced around a lot at our banquets trying to find a space that would fulfill our needs, but with people that worked with us that we could get along with, that we could have a fun night, have a lot and kind of build a relationship with.
Sure.
And we ended up having it at the Moose Lodge that year, but it far exceeded anything we could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I
We-
was
To where
elbow there.
me and Morgan were both like, all right, we gotta stop like
We had
selling
to.
tickets because we know we're gonna have walk-ins.
Right.
And it's like
Now you're
even
pushing
at
the
that,
fire
we
code
were-
limits. What you
Yeah,
have in the
we
building
were
there.
looking for chairs. There was not a single
there
chair
wasn't.
left
It was
in the building.
what we have. When we went into that banquet night, we had I think 198 online sales. And my dream for the chapter was, and I say mine because I think that was one of my, before I handed it over to Chris was really stepping up his role. Was I always had the dream of building something and get 200 people in that building. And lo and behold, Chris is like, hey, I got a couple people that are coming. I'm like, well, that's perfect. That puts us over right there.
By the way, I bought my 2 tickets today, so it kind
I
of
saw that.
Yeah. So, but the other cool part is the NWTF is starting to realize now that with volunteer power, they're kind of loosening the reins on us. Like it was a very regimented, like you had to do it this way. This is how it needed to be done. And I am going to give the biggest attaboy to our regional director, Carter Heath.
Yeah.
That guy's a
He
rock
has
star.
been
Yeah, he is.
so
I
like
just follow his
transparent
stuff online. It's amazing.
yeah,
what he
he's
puts
just
into it.
been so transparent on everything. He relies on us. We always reach out or have people tell people like, hey, reach out to us, tell us what you didn't like, what you like, how can we improve, what
Sure.
can we do? And Carter's like, yeah, man, you rock it. You do whatever you need to do as long
if
as
I got an idea, I'll be like, hey, Carter, what if he doesn't think it'll work, he'll be like, yeah, I don't know. But a lot of times he's like, yeah, if you think it'll work, go for it.
Sure. Right. So
Before I forget, because I know I got to jog stuff here, you brought up the national convention. I want to congratulate our good friend Ron Lafreniere for his award he got down there. Ron, I'm sure once you see this posted, you'll listen. Congratulations, my friend. I did not see you at Yankee Classic. I met Ron in Illinois 20 years ago, bow hunting.
Yep.
So him and Brett are good guys, and you couldn't ask for a better guy that got that award.
Yep,
So.
it's so for anybody that doesn't know what the Roger Latham Award is, it's the most prestigious award for a non. I want to say it's for a volunteer. Yes, there's a more professional way to word it, but it's the highest honor of a volunteer that you can get.
Yep.
And Ron has done so much between the Jake's events that he has, the great banquets he puts on every year. He now has the only Women in the Outdoors event in Vermont that he started, which is, I mean, it's phenomenal. Ron has done so much.
He's amazing.
He really has. But that's not even to mention all of the like the work that they do up on Camel's Hump and all of these other habitat restoration stuff. So Ron is a phenomenal guy. And not only that too, we have 2 of the recipients right here in Vermont with Brett Ledoux. He was just a few years before that. So just to think nation-wise, to be able to be picked as a top volunteer in the country is pretty phenomenal. But to go back to how we were talking about how the chapters work in the state of Vermont, or in any state really, is you have a super fund that the greater majority of, so how it would work is if we have a banquet and say the net dollars after all of things taken out between packages of buying your goods for it, food, your tab, all of that stuff, when the net dollars come out, 20% of that funds goes back to your state. Why this is important is a lot of people don't understand there's not a lot of conservation groups out there that actually give money back to the states that raise the money.
Sure.
So this will bring me into a more important part of the NWTF as we go on. But from the super fund, that 20%, another 10% of that is broken down and goes to the state chapter fund, which is then can be used by the state chapter board, which I think Ron might be the secretary,
Secretary.
treasurer of
treasurer,
that. Yeah. So he monitors that, and then the board. So it would be, even though I'm a vice president still, I'm still invited into the meetings. But like Chris, Brett Ledoux of their chapter, Rocky Bunnell of the
Northeast.
No, yes, I believe so.
Yeah,
and then
Northeast Kingdom Longbeards.
and then they have Ron's chapter, which is Lake Champlain Longbeards.
Longbeards, yeah.
And then there's another chapter in Derby. I think there's 5 now, only 5. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So there's another chapter in Derby, I think. So the center of the state really kind of is missed. There used to be one in Barrie. Brent Lafreniere used to run one there.
Yep.
But so needless to say, once those funds are in, and then 2% of that gets broken down and sent to your local chapter.
Sure.
So depending on how big your chapters are, that could be a significant amount that we can put, like we've had ideas, and I've wanted to do this for years. It's hard because Thanksgiving week is when I normally go to Maine deer hunting, and what I would like to do is get with a local food shelf, use some of our chapter money, put it out there on maybe like WCIX or the local radio station, and say, listen, we're a local NWTF chapter. We are going to spend this much money to buy turkeys for
needy people.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Anything like that for the food shelf. Will anybody match us?
Yep.
Businesses, personal people.
Put the challenge out there.
Right. But put the challenge out there, but show the people, the public people that don't even know what the NWTF is.
Sure.
We're part of the community.
Right. Who is this NWTF and what do they stand for? And show people that hunters in the hunting heritage, that we're people just like everybody else, and we want to do good. It's not It's not just go out there
kill turkeys.
We're not barbarians, you know. So that's kind of how it breaks down. And then you have chapter roles that, you know, you can, and we highly encourage anybody that's ever interested. And volunteer level leadership can be at whatever level you want it to be. If you only want to help the nights of the banquets, those are the nights we really need.
Yeah, that's
people.
Honestly the biggest night I need, and you need somebody, because, you know, Morgan and I do take most of the responsibility for a lot of the stuff. A banquet like that day, that night, if somebody can come and volunteer and help out,
absolutely,
that is the day to be there. You know, so because I get a lot of guys are like, I don't know if I can commit to it, and I'm like, really, there's not a lot, you know, like you don't have to go to the habitat workshops. I ask people, hey, we're going to have one, do you want to go to it?
Sure.
We get plenty of volunteers, you know, from even other conservation organizations, backcountry hunters and anglers,
you
know, Rough Grouse Society, some of those guys come and do stuff with us too. So it's like, the banquet's really the big night, like where we need the help.
And that's how you get a chance to network with those people, because they have those other avenues you can think about
that's it.
too.
You gain a lot of relationships. Like since I've gotten into this, I've gained so many relationships.
Absolutely.
You know,
I'll tell you, I was initially, I asked to join the Green Mountain chapter of the RAMF. And at that time, that board of directors was all a lot of older gentlemen and guys that sadly a good portion of them have now passed away. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that core group had a lot of volunteerism built into them. Yeah. And like you said, we had, you know, usually quarterly meetings that we would try and meet, and we were spread all over the Champlain Valley. We would generally meet in Burlington or Shelburne. Chan Washburn was the president for many, many, many years, and he did a lot of that legwork and just got old enough and said, it's time for me to step back. And I got busier with stuff with my business and kind of backed off from it too. And but it's a commitment, you know, there's no question about it. You know, it's
yeah. And you know, it's like just being a committee member really isn't a lot of commitment.
Right.
You know,
I mean, really the most we've ever asked of our committee members is we need you for banquet nights. And really, I mean, the big thing is donations.
Sure.
We are a 501c3. Like the more money that we can make to raise money for the cause, if we can get donations, is huge.
Sure.
And I understand it. It does. It gets people way out of their comfort zone to go in and ask for something for free.
Don't we know?
Oh yeah.
So
No.
Andy and I started working on sponsorship stuff. And
It is. It's hard when it doesn't feel especially when businesses don't feel like it's any benefit to them.
Yeah.
It makes it extremely.
And that's
hard.
the thing
And
we've
then
talked about is like you have to explain to them it is a benefit because you've been to the banquet. Like there's a couple hundred people there. You're putting yourself in front of because your product or your donation, you now have FaceTime with 200, 300 people.
Sure.
And those people are there because they believe in it.
Yep.
They enjoy themselves. And that could just be the thing that says, hey, I've never done anything with this business before, but well, now I think I'm going to. They support something that I support. I'm going to start using that business.
Sure. The members of the Northeast Kingdom chapter, Trout Unlimited, one of the board of directors is a fishing client of mine, and she just emailed me the other day. That chapter's been defunct for a while, and actually TJ Dedzitel we had on with us, he's on the board of directors there too. And they just restarted the chapter this winter, and they got their first reintroductory banquet. They're calling their new Grand Gala. And unfortunately, it's in April, and I've already got the weekend booked with charters, so
Right.
I can't attend. But yeah, I try to rotate the different chapters and clubs and things I'm involved with trip donations and keep them to a steady minimum as far as my tax advisor starts taking a look at how many donations I do a year. But
Right.
I donated one with them. I did one with a kids fund this year. So, it's fine in that balance too. But like you said, I try to make those banquets where the ones that I've done donations, I want to physically meet the people and talk about
absolutely.
what I've done
Right.
and what the trip could be. And she asked me that. She goes, what would the donation be? And I said, the trip's good for anything within this window of opportunity. The winner can talk to me how they want to schedule it.
Right.
So, but you're right. It's that involvement, that networking is pretty critical.
It is, whether it's for us as a chapter or, local businesses, because, being a small community area, we, as a nonprofit organization, we do kind of rely on these local businesses to help us out because it costs a lot of money, honestly, for us to put a banquet on.
It does.
Oh, it does.
It really does.
Yeah,
People
it
don't
does.
understand
Yeah.
just how much he wrote the checks for a while. I'm the one writing the checks now. It's like, because one, we want everybody to have an amazing night.
Yep.
We don't want you to come eat hot dogs and baked beans and
As long as you got Mr. Butler coming doing the cooking, I'm coming
that's it.
every year.
As long as the Maple ain't
That
getting
was
sick.
that one upped the ante for us
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, my
Wait,
Lord.
But
wait,
it's like we want to have nice things there. We want as many people as we can to leave with something,
Yeah.
enjoy themselves, have fun, bring your wives, bring your girlfriends, your kids, grandkids. It's a family event.
right. That's the biggest thing for
I was
us.
going to lead into that. And
We
one
are
thing
really
I will
pushing that.
compliment you guys on,
Yeah.
and I have gone to a ton of different banquets. Your family atmosphere is what I love. And I think that is key because you need to stay diversified. I won't lie to you. My brother just went to a banquet the other day and he goes, it was kind of stuck up. Wasn't a lot of conversation. Everybody sat at their table. I said, yeah, some of those banquets are like that.
Yeah.
The first one he had been to in quite a while. But I love the atmosphere you guys have. And I think that's great. And
We can't say enough for our members that do come. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, and there's a lot of them. I mean, some of the people, and I don't mean to name drop, but I mean, some dedicated people are look at Travis Baptiste's table. They
year.
come with 12, 14
Yeah, they
guys
do.
every year.
Every year.
The Greniers, they didn't come last year, but it was like the banquet hit on a conflict weekend.
Yeah,
I think it was one of their birthdays, but they've been there every year with me since I restarted the chapter. I actually think the Greniers were coming when I first took the chapter over when I was 18 years old. And it only lasted for a year for me, but I remember them being at that banquet and they stuck it out through that whole time. So, and we've grown since then. Like
I took it over. I mean, he built this thing to
no, but we wouldn't be where we are today if you hadn't have taken it over because you think about it, I had to take a step down. Like
Right.
I'm at a place I just started my own business. I have 2 little girls now. Like there becomes a point where I have to balance my time and I wanted to make sure that I was going to be a good dad.
Yep.
That was a huge thing for me. And, business, obviously you got to make money to pay the bills. So, but, and having good wives, I mean, I can't.
My wife, and God bless her, because this time of year, there's a lot of we're either talking about turkey banquet. There's a turkey call getting played somewhere.
Yeah,
There's turkey call. There's turkey call. There's turkey hunting on YouTube on the TV at 5 a.m. while I'm getting ready to go out in the shop. And she just takes it, and she likes doing it. Like she's going to go to Brett Ledoux's banquet.
Yeah.
He asked her the other day when he was at the house, he's like, hey, can you come help check people? And she's like, yeah. She's like, you have to have that.
It's a
a
family.
wife, an understanding partner to be able to really
absolutely
to take the role that he was in and to take the role that I've now taken.
Now, Brett's chapter's in Queechee?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Queechee
What
Highland.
I think the chapter is out of White River,
Yes.
Yeah.
but they host the banquet in Queechee, which is actually coming up. It's on the 15th.
Yeah,
Yes.
2 weeks before ours.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll
So
be there
if-
for that.
So throwing this out there for people, by all means, don't think just because it's over in Queechee, you can't go to both, because what you may not end up getting at his banquet, you might be able to get at ours,
There
or
you
vice
go.
versa. So
Yeah.
Typically, like I go and Morgan goes, if we go to the other banquets, one to support the other chapters within the state. We're all friends.
Yeah.
It's not a competition. We're all
Sure.
together. Like the more memberships we can gain in the state, the better off we are. I've talked about it with Carter. I've talked about it with Morgan, and I was talking about it with Andrew Noble the other day. My goal for the state of Vermont is 10% of all turkey hunters. And people are like, well, that doesn't sound a lot. If you get 10% of all turkey hunting license buyers in the state to be a member, you've
Accomplished
Oh,
a lot.
we-
you've
we've-
accomplished a lot.
boy.
right,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, I want to say it was 4 or 5 years ago. Can you take a guess at what the average yield of NWTF memberships at a 20,000 turkey hunters there were?
I couldn't even fathom it.
400.
No kidding.
I mean,
Yep.
that's a huge number for 4,000, or on average 20,000
Yep.
turkey licenses sold.
Sure.
Only 400 people were members of the NWTF.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, it's just crazy to me that if you love something so much that you wouldn't want to be at least involved with a $35 membership,
Yep.
as Hal Blood would say, when they had that you could buy a cup of coffee for a couple weeks and
Yeah.
have already paid off that membership.
Sure.
Yeah.
So-
And it's like for $35, you're getting 6 issues of the magazine
Yep.
a year. You will get emails, you'll get things for the mail for gear offers. And a lot of them are really good discounts. Food plot seed subsidy,
Yep.
that's going on right now, I believe.
Yep.
So you're getting benefits, it's like, oh, $35. In the end, it's washing out.
Right.
Like coming to our banquet, people are like, oh, how much is it? I forgot what this year was. It $50?
50 per
Yeah,
$50
yeah,
for a
yeah,
single?
for a single
Yeah,
ticket.
okay.
And so
Here's-
people understand, like $50 nowadays. When I first started doing banquets, it was $95
Yep.
Yeah.
because you were paying for your meal and your membership.
Sure.
So now, to kind of put this in perspective for people, we're banking on that when you come to our banquets, we want to charge you less when you come,
Sure.
but we're hoping that you're going to spend
Spend
more
more.
on
We
the
want-
item. So we want you to come in with more money in your pocket, so you have a better opportunity of walking home with something you see that you might like
Sure.
that you want to go home with.
Well, I can tell you, I am bringing my girlfriend along, and she's never been to one of these type of
man.
events
She's
before.
going to have,
She's not real big on crowds and groups, and I said, you're not going to be put in front of anybody to have to talk about it. Just come in and see what it's about. And
Right.
Yeah.
and again, the atmosphere you guys have got, I think, is she's really going to dig into. And so I'm kind of on bated breath to see what she thinks. Whether she says not again or
Right.
want to get involved with it. So
I try to be as a humble a person as possible. But one thing I will say, when you hear somebody say something more than once, if you're hearing it from multiple people, something that I have heard people say about our banquet compared to any other banquet they've ever been to is there's something electric in the room. Like our crowd and our members, and yes, I'm talking about you guys that are listening that come to our banquet. You don't find places that you go when there's a live auction and people are cheering for the person they just bet against and lost. You know
got
what
it.
I mean? It's everybody has the same frame of mind. We're here to raise money for a cause. Not I want to go home with that. It's not that type. It really truly is. And a lot of people have fun. We've had some great auctioneers over the years that have really helped us out with that too. It just keeps the things alive.
Yeah.
I had to chuckle last year, the charter I did with you guys. Dave Chase was the high bidder, and he's a past fishing client of mine.
Yeah.
And he was with a crew of guys from Green Mountain Power, and I knew 95% of the guys at that table.
Yeah.
And if you guys recall, there might have been a liquid flowing around that table.
Yeah.
And Dave came up to me and goes, I don't know what I just did, but I think somebody's going to have fun. So he actually emailed me a couple weeks later, and he says, do you mind if I give the trip to my girls? And I said, I would be honored. The first year I chartered, I took his girls on a charter.
That's awesome.
Last year, they came with their fiance. So a little bit of a time relapse there, but I had probably one of my favorite fishing trips of the season. Matter of fact, we did some selfie foolish group photos back at the dock with the girls. So that trip alone meant a ton to me, and knowing that they bid outrageous amount of money that went to you guys for that.
Right.
No, and that's great. We love seeing that because one, it really shows us that people believe in what we're doing.
Yes.
And it makes you feel good about it.
Absolutely.
Putting all that effort and work in, like Morgan knows, like the week before the banquet, I'm going to be
It's
nervous wreck.
stressful.
I will
It's
be,
stressful.
I'm going to be in the shop trying to work on deer heads or whatever I'm working on at the time. But in the back of my head, every single day, it's banquet.
Right.
Yeah.
Human nature has us as people. I can say this as a plumber because I know when heating season comes, people don't think I should have had my furnace serviced or my boiler serviced 3 months ago before heating season got here.
Sure.
They call you when heating season starts.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with the banquet. We can advertise for 3-4 months before the banquet starts.
The next 3 weeks, we're going to sell a ton of it.
Sure.
I mean, and it's
Absolutely.
not even the next 3. It's usually the week before.
A week and a half.
Yeah.
And I do ask Morgan, we both talk about it. We try to get people we encourage them to buy their tickets earlier. And we know it could be a scheduling conflict. You're not sure because it's an investment to go. But the more lead time we have in knowing basically how many people we're going to have there, makes it easier for us to get prizes. It's not like we can just go down to Walmart and get prizes. Like we're a little over a month out. I'm already ordering the bulk of our stuff now for the banquet.
Right.
Yep. So tell the listeners a little bit how the banquet goes on. You're talking about your prizes, gifts, guns, that type of stuff. How does that work out?
So we do get a core package from the NWTF, which is great. They come up with it. I think I've made a post of the back of the core package book. All that stuff that was in there on that picture will be there. But then we pick up other things. Like I got one, Morgan, a couple other guys know about it. Brett already says he's bringing it back over the mountain with him. That table that my buddy found in Maine, who none of us quite even know when that table was.
That was quite some time ago. But that one will be a surprise.
That's going to be a surprise. You guys nobody's going to see that. You're going to have to come to the banquet to see it.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's lots of things. So normally how a banquet plays out, there's usually a schedule. We don't want to keep people too long because it becomes the same that we just were talking about the podcast. Sometimes you go too long and you start to lose people.
Yeah.
So same thing with a banquet. You start sitting there for 4 or 5 hours, people are like, all right, enough's enough. And especially when you have to start a banquet so late in the evening because you want it to be around dinner time. Then you're pushing people out 11, 12 o'clock.
And hoping it's not snowing to beat the band.
Right. And
last
year was one of the first years we've had a bad storm on the night of the banquet. And I think that kind of affected some stuff. But that's to be expected. It's going to happen eventually. But how it would normally work is you would purchase your tickets beforehand. I'm going to hit on something else with Chris this is huge for people that don't understand. We cannot guarantee you a meal if you don't buy your ticket beforehand.
Ahead of time.
You're welcome to come. We'll allow you to come, but you can't walk up to the buffet table if you don't have a ticket purchased before the night of. We have to give Josh from the Maple Angus an ample amount of time to order enough food to feed everybody.
You got it.
And there's only a certain percentage he can allow over that to be able to feed people that come in after.
Sure.
That's why we try to, we don't discourage walk-ins, but we try not to advertise for walk-ins because we can't guarantee, and we don't want the night to be like that for everybody. We want people to come to the banquet, enjoy themselves, have good food, have some beverages if they want. Obviously, we don't encourage anybody to drive home if they can't. We try to make sure if you need somebody
we will
to drive
get a
you
hold
home,
of somebody to get you
that
home.
we will get you home.
Absolutely.
But normally how it works is you would buy your tickets beforehand, you show up that night, doors open at 4. Now, this is something that we really had to start doing as the banquet started growing, is you cannot play any of the games until 4 o'clock. Because what we were starting to find out is the banquets were growing.
Sure.
People were showing up an hour early, and we were letting them come in the door because they had bought their tickets, and then they were going around playing games or pre-bidding on stuff. The banquet starts at 4. Sure. No pens are on the table for silent auction. We don't let any of the games start until 4 o'clock.
We want everybody to have the same opportunity.
We want it to be fair.
What we're hoping is Morgan and I, he started with, he wanted to see 200. Then I took it over and we got talking about it. We got a bigger venue. Now we've talked about we want to see 300.
Well, you could do 300 there.
We could definitely do 300.
And
but here's the conflict. That goes back to volunteers.
Sure.
It takes a number of volunteers to be able to run a banquet like that so this will kind of run into a little bit more of that. So when you come in the door, then lots of stuff opens up for you to do.
Sure.
Usually we have a women's table. We have a Jake's table. This is something fairly new. Last 2 years, 3 years?
2 years.
2 years. The last 2 years.
Yep.
It has been incredible for us. I can remember times in banquets when there would be 2, 3 kids there. I think we had almost 16 kids last year.
We did.
And
I'd like to see even more this year.
Well, absolutely. It's a very family-oriented thing. We would love seeing kids there. Man, when kids walk out of there with stuff and they're like, Mom, Dad, I want to come back. This was fun, and wives are like, oh, yeah, I guess we got to come back. Or they go over to the table, they see some stuff that's there for them. Yep. We're really trying to amp it up and make it fun for everybody. So once you walk in, this is the third time I've said this now. You walk in, you have a chance. So what we have is gun games. So you would go up, and how those work is you can go up and you pay money. So however the game works out, and you would get tickets to win a gun. And there could be 5 guns. There could be numerous amounts of guns. Those aren't your only opportunities. So the night continues to go on. There's a silent auction table.
Yep.
So you can go over and you see all these items, and then you could bid on silent auction. There's even a gun game on that. And then there's bucket raffles. You can buy bucket raffle tickets, and that's where you want to get into the banquet and buy your tumblers or buy early. This year, something we worked with a local company, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Woodman Arms.
Yep.
But you can buy pre-tickets online.
Yep.
But here's the caveat. This isn't just you buy tickets and you win the gun. You have to be at the banquet that night to win.
Yep.
Bingo.
We draw your name.
Yep.
Call it out. You are not at the banquet.
You don't get the gun.
We will draw another name
Right.
for that Woodman arm.
Yep.
For you guys.
Yep. So we want to make sure that we get the draw. So so you have those things, and then the live auction line is open to anybody to go up and look around, see what they like, what not, and then obviously there will be an open bar, not an open bar, but a bar that you can go up and
Josh and those guys run that bar.
Yep. So he also does the bar and stuff, not only the food, and then it's just mingling.
Yes.
You're there with 100 to 200 people that are like-minded like you that want to go, and we've had great donations from Lake St. Catherine Country Club. You, for example, what I thought it was great that you were able to step up in front of the crowd last year and talk about S258 and really kind of make people aware of that. That's what's so great about it. I do
have the gift of gab, so I've been told.
So, but I mean, we just have, and one thing that we'd like to grow too for anybody that's listening is we have the ability now to work on corporate sponsors.
Yep.
So something that we've wanted to work on in the past is maybe get like Alderman's Toyota or Alderman's Chevy or the Dodge, Ram or whatever.
Sure.
If they wanted to do some type of like sponsor table, we could work out a deal with them that they can bring, excuse me a second. They could bring a couple of their vehicles, park them out front. got good advertisement, put a banner up for them,
Sure.
and then give them a couple underwriting items on there. Even if you're a small business and you want to donate to the business, but you don't know what you want to donate, we can do underwritten items.
I've done a couple of those already.
Yeah, which is
people, they don't understand that because we are a nonprofit. You run a business. I run a business. All of us run a business in here, so it's like it is a tax write-off. Some people don't like. I donate a deer head every year. I've never written it off. It's just not what I do. It's not why I'm donating it. But
Right.
if you want to, I give you a slip. You will get your paperwork the following January.
Sure.
As a donatable tax write-off.
Yep. So, and then the night continues on. Usually have from 4 o'clock to 5:30. We usually do about an hour and a half of that where you mingle, go around and play games. It's a pretty busy happening thing.
It is.
And then we usually ask people to come back down. And then we start doing some, the Pledge of Allegiance. This is America. So we start doing a bunch of that stuff, and we do prayer, and then we allow people to go up and eat, and then we start talking about, let people eat a little bit, and then we try to go into some more like subject stuff, like the importance of volunteering or our habitat work days stuff, just kind of get the crowd involved to actually let them know like, hey, this is why we're here. This is what we're doing.
Sure.
And then after that happens, it goes right into the live auction. And that's when the night gets real fun.
That's when it gets good.
And then after that, there's still opportunity for people that feel that they can come and maybe not spend a lot of money is the bucket raffles. Then we give the opportunity, and we've been doing pretty good lately. We have quite a few buckets for people or, to try it.
We try to spread it out. So one of my things is I like to see a third of the people leave with something.
Right.
Sure.
In my head, I've got enough there. So by the numbers, a third of the people there will leave with something.
I got a pair of Kenetrep boots at home because of a bucket raffle, so I can tell you what, they definitely work. My brothers have both won a lot of guns over the years.
There's a lot of opportunity there for people to win things, leave with things, and it's, you're doing it for a good cause.
Absolutely.
You really are.
Yep.
Now, this will kind of circle back on what I was talking about, like the whole NWTF and how it kind of leads into a bigger picture. Is, it's kind of a common joke. It's pretty funny that we've gone to, I'm trying to remember exactly what they call them, like leadership meetings. And one of the big things that some of the directors were talking about is that the words NWTF, National Wild Turkey Federation, people associate so much, like DU, Ducks Unlimited, however. But what people don't really do a deep dive into what it actually is about. Now, it might say National Wild Turkey Federation, but if you look at the habitat work done by the volunteers and the money being put forward, it benefits so much more than just the wild turkey.
Absolutely.
And they have the saying is that the NWTF actually does more on accident for non-game and other game species than it actually does on purpose for the wild turkey.
Yep.
So this is what I always try to use this as if you're a deer hunter listening to this, or you're a trout fisherman, and I can give you examples, or a bear hunter or a bird hunter, anything like that. For one example is the Otter Creek wildlife area right there in like the Danby Mount Tabor area. We went in with a partnership with the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department and a collaboration with backcountry hunters and anglers, and planted, it was somewhere between 20 and 30 trees on the banks of the far, which would be the south end of the property where the Bat and Kill comes down.
Yep.
And the reason for that tree planting is that to stop the erosion when the ice jams go out.
Yep.
Because eventually what their fear was, that the state of Vermont's fear was, or the Fish and Wildlife Department was, eventually over time, if that continued to happen, there would be no diversity to the river anymore for the fish, where the bends and the pools and all that stuff, because the ice was eventually going to create a new waterway and it was going to be straight.
Absolutely.
So we went in and planted these trees. We beaver proofed them. We put all sorts of, fencing around them. But the thought is hopefully over time, if they last long enough, because we came far enough away from the bank, that they would root themselves deep enough that they would stop
Slow
the
down
erosion over time.
Yep.
So
DU did the same thing on some spots in the Otter Creek Valley in Florence and Pittsford, believe it or not.
Yep.
Same idea, but without volunteers, it doesn't happen.
No.
You know?
now that had nothing to do with turkeys.
Sure.
That
Exactly.
not a one thing did that have anything to do with turkey. Maybe the diversity in forest, if the woods grow large enough, that would be an edge for deer and turkeys and other game species to walk upon. You could probably use that as a defense. But really in a whole, the better thing was the ecology of the river and the fish. That it was gonna, so
My brown trout, thank you.
right. So the other thing that we did on that same habitat project is ripped up. I'm trying to remember. It was a lot. It was 2 truckfuls of old farm barbed wire fence.
Sure.
And what had happened is the Fish and Wildlife had multiple complaints from bird hunters that their dogs were getting caught up in that fence and getting injured.
Sure.
So that was like one of our big things. So, and another great organization is Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. So there's another great one. Huge defense on the public land stuff. So if that's what you like to hunt, public land, definitely, give them. But there are others. We've done stuff at Hubbardton, which this was a big one for me because we went in and did apple tree, like fruit tree releases.
Saw that post you guys did that one.
And
They did that. They had the Veterans Foundation working with that too.
Yep. And same thing. Backcountry Hunters came with that one. They had some people from the state that came too. The Fish and Wildlife Department was there, and it was just, we went in, we released a bunch of apple trees, but we didn't get rid of the brush.
Sure.
We created nesting. We created places for
rabbits and
exactly.
Sure.
So it benefited everything because it was crab apple trees. There was some apple trees there. So that was a big one. I mean, Ron and his crew, they get giant crews that go up there to Camel's Hump, do the same thing, apple tree releases. They've done some pollinator projects up there, which is, not exactly planting a food plot, but planting grasses that create good hiding for poulting and stuff. So that's another big one.
Those
we
natural forbs and that habitat.
Yep. And then another big one we did was Gale Meadows. And this one hits huge home for me because that's right in my home area.
Yep.
But we went in and down to an area that the state went in and did some clearing and stuff like that. And we went down and planted multiple apple trees and shrub trees to be able to try to defend off the apple trees from deer and stuff, kind of make them hopefully go toward the shrubs rather than toward the apple trees. But we had a huge volunteer base for that. Lots of people came out to help with that. And the one caveat to that always it always cracks me up because they talk about, and I'm not trying to be controversial here, but anti-hunters always talk about we're doing what's necessary for the good of the wildlife.
Yeah. Don't get me going.
but not yet have I seen one that has ever, and this is public knowledge. These things are out there for the public to know. So if they really wanted to come and help, they could.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we've never seen one of those anti-hunting people at one of these. They're
never.
No, it's always like-minded people.
Yep.
Sportsmen, sportsmen are the conservationists. The others can talk about it, but we are the ones that we walk the walk.
Right. But what the point that I was trying to get at is if you're listening to this and you really want to try to make a difference, even in a small way, if you come to the banquets, you help raise more money. The money goes back toward better habitat work. And then, like I said, we're always looking for volunteers.
For sure.
Always. I mean, to run a 240-person banquet, we were scrambling that night.
Sure. You look at all the stations you've got to run to have runners during the auction. There's a lot that goes on.
Yeah, the games, because not only, depending on the game that you're doing and the amount of tickets you got to rip, you got to have 1 to 2 ticket rippers there, and you got to have the one guy handling the money, keeping track of the numbers and stuff. It takes a lot. It really does. So, but it's all good intentions, and we really want to use a lot of those funds to create better things. And the one thing that I've always said, and I know this is kind of circling back, but I really do want to hit back on a community level because I really think that's where your next transition is going to be to gather more people.
Absolutely.
Because you get that core people that come back year after year, and they'll bring a couple new people every year, but you get some people that can't make it because it conflicts the weekend, so you kind of get that shift. But if you can dive into a whole new pool and grab some people out of that that can come, that maybe they're on the fence about hunting, or they're
never done a banquet before,
right? Or they've never done a banquet, or maybe they're not a hunter. Maybe they are an anti. Come and see what happens at the banquet.
See what we do.
The groups are involved.
I mean, come see what it really does.
Because we have no problem showing them what we do. Like what we're going to raise this money. What are we going to do with it?
Sure.
Right.
Hey, come. We'll invite you. Come and do it. We're going to cook out while we're there, and we're going to enjoy it. We're going to do the habitat improvements, and
And that doesn't even only go on just the habitat work.
No.
Now we talk about Jake's events.
Sure. Yep.
Women in the outdoors, which they call the Weedo event. Yep. Wheeling sportsmen's. There's so many different avenues that the NWTF touches on. I mean, for Jake's events, for anybody, I mean, Rocky Mountain, they've won awards for their stuff. They do one up in, it's just outside of Lindenville. I can't remember the name of the town, but they have it on the Bunnell farm, and they have their pond stocked. They take it's like 120 kids, and they go and they do this fishing tournament at the pond. A guy usually donates the biggest fish, gets a free trout mount. They do stations, which is incredible. And the cool part about the stations, I've been a part of this one. And I mean, if you have a kid in this state and you really want to see something special, you really need to look into the Northeast chapter. We said it earlier. The Northeast chapter out of Lindenville's Jake's event. It is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. They have food for the kids, but they do skeet shooting, bow shooting, 22 shooting. They have, one year I went, they had a guy bring a team of horses, and it talked about logging with the horses.
Awesome.
They had a New Hampshire game warden show up one time that had the K9 unit, and he talked about how the K9 unit worked for search, how it worked for investigation, how it worked for they just have phenomenal stuff. The U.S. Coast Guard showed up one time, and they brought a rock climbing wall. Like, they have a phenomenal outfit there. Ron does a phenomenal Jake's event before the season starts every year too, that kids can come to, and he would love to see his grow. And now they have the women's event, and that's usually, I believe, a weekend thing. It's with the state of Vermont. The Fish and Wildlife Department has involvement with that. Nicole Myers, I think she helps head some of that stuff off. And the women just come and they just do outdoor stuff. It's just a really cool event. I haven't been to that one yet, but I'm looking forward to trying to go there at some point, because I really do think it's a phenomenal event. We did have a wheeling sportsman's event in Vermont for a little while. But it was just hard to sustain, just because there was so much.
There's a lot of logistics too.
There is.
Right. There really is, on like, how limited can you be? Like, who do you allow? Like, so would it be awesome to have it one day again? Yes, it would be. Again, we're such a small state too. It's hard to target such a small group, but it was a phenomenal event when we had it then too. So a lot of guys really appreciated it. We had a lot of volunteers to be able to take out handicapped people. So it was awesome. So
Morgan and I, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We've actually talked about, as I made that difficult decision to kind of dissolve the golf tournament, just because it was almost like another mini banquet. Him and I had started talking about getting our own Jake's event at this end of the state, because there wasn't one. I mean, it's something we're still in the process of trying to figure out, but because there's a lot to go
keep us in the loop with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the big thing is finding a place.
Huge passion for us.
Like people that attend our event, that's where we're going to get a lot of our money, because a Jake's event isn't about making money.
No.
We're going to be spending our money that we earn from our banquet and calendars and all that, to put it back into these kids, this next generation that's coming up, like introducing these kids to the outdoors, and that's kind of my thing. My kids are growing up now. Morgan's just starting. So we're at two different places, but I've lived it already. He's starting to live it.
Right.
Yep.
You know, so it means a lot to both of us.
Right. And the big thing for us, and if anybody's listening to this, is a little jab hint here. The biggest thing is the space.
Yep.
We really need to, like Rocky Bunnell's event, or I should say their chapter event, where they have it on the Bunnell farm is that, you know, that's a place, it's a big acreage where they can spread themselves out in different stations and do shooting and doing stuff. If anybody has a property like that would be willing to donate in the southern Vermont area,
Yep.
we would love to talk to you, because that really is the biggest hurdle to jump. Once that hurdle's jumped, then it's volunteer power.
Sure.
If you can get enough adults with common ground, the NWTF will definitely insure an event like that.
Oh, yes.
But we need to make sure that we have good volunteers, people that are
Knowledgeable,
good citizens,
that are-
knowledgeable,
Yep.
you know, to do that. But we really lack that in this part of the state. We don't really have a big Jake's event stuff, that a Jake's event or a youth event where kids can come and do outdoor stuff.
Sure.
Like survival tactics, you know. Maybe it could be somebody coming and showing a kid how to tie a fly,
Yep.
you know, a group of kids how to tie a
Absolutely.
fly, or build a lure, or, you know, maybe it's just casting, or,
Sure.
you know, different things. You can come up with all sorts of stations, and then you could get a board put together and it would just, it's a lot of work, but man, I think the satisfaction at the end would be kids would remember it forever. And that's really,
I might have a place in mind. We'll talk after.
okay.
And we see it just with the Youth Weekend event up at Crossman's store. That's almost like a mini Jake's event.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we are involved with it. They were nice enough and asked us, hey, do you guys want to be involved? Absolutely.
Yes.
Sure.
You know, so we go up and help with that. And to
I
see
just
the kids
remember
up
that
there.
picture of all those kids on the front porch
Yeah.
of the
You
store
know,
there
to see the
last year.
kids up there and hear some of the stories is just. it's
And Sean
awesome.
does a great job bringing his podcast stuff. And that
Yeah.
would just sitting there, even when you're not involved, but if you're just kind of on the outskirts and you listen to some of those kids
Get those kids to
recap their
talk.
hunts,
Yeah.
man, it is a blast just listening to them and just seeing their smile. It brings me back to being a kid, because I can remember Stoddard's Market over in Londonderry.
Sure.
When I used to be a kid, like used to walk in there and you bitch, I shot a guy, you know, a turkey this morning. You know, it just, I remember that those were the good old days.
Absolutely.
I
So-
remember driving all
Keith's
the
General
way to,
Store in Pittsburgh was that place for me. Still
Yeah,
is.
Like
If
I
everybody
remember
knows.
driving all the way over to Tommy St. John's in Fairhaven to check my first spring turkey in 1992.
Yep.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, those are the things that you're going to lock in on as a youth, and we need to continue to reinvigorate that and get those kids involved with no matter what it is, to register that that's something you're going to have that building block on.
And they don't understand because of society today. It's human nature to be a hunter gatherer.
yeah,
Right.
Like it's like, to me, there's not a choice whether or not I'm going to go hunting and fishing.
absolutely.
It is who I am. It is in my soul.
Bingo.
Right.
There's no, am I going to go this year?
Yep.
And sometimes it baffles me because you hear guys that hunt, and they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, I don't even have a choice. It's like
Yeah.
Right. It's part of
spring
who
turkey
you are.
season's like, I deer hunt, but being in the profession I am, I don't get to do it as much, which is
Sure.
different because Morgan started he was like into turkeys. I was big on deer when I was younger. Turkey hunted, at a very young age, but kind of took it. But it was probably when I was about 21, 22, I got bit with a turkey bug bad.
Sure.
Right.
And Logan and I are the same way.
Yeah.
He's literally went with me in climbing in the backpack,
Yeah.
and it's who he is. And he told me the other day, he says, I told Cadence a long time ago, you're not going to change me, except that he eats, sleeps, and breathes the outdoors.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm obviously very proud of the young man and the human that he is, but that I have not struggled to instill the outdoor way of life in him.
Right.
It's what he lives for. I'm meant to.
Well, and the
we
other
need
thing
more of
is
that.
it's common knowledge too. I mean, if you look at the dynamics, and I'm not talking about just hunting, I'm talking about everything in general.
Sure.
The way that we have gone in society now. I mean, even when I was in plumbing school, they showed us a chart and showed the dynamics of the ages coming in
Into the
and
trades.
the ages going out.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to tell my cousin this forever, and I'm like, I'm at the age where I have the potential to make good money. I said, but man, you're 18 years old. If you get in the trade right now, with the limited amount of people that are getting in the trade right now,
sure.
if you were ever confident enough to start your business in a couple years,
Yep.
you could name your price,
Yep.
because there is going to be nobody left soon.
Exactly.
Because the number of older generation folks that had a work ethic
Yeah.
are leaving.
Sure.
And now it's very few times that you find somebody that has. Now taking that, look at hunting.
Sure.
It's the same graph. The hunting was a way of life back in the day because there was no video games. You played wiffle ball in the yard in the summer. Yeah. You had to find ways to entertain
you
yourself.
Went trout fishing down in the brook.
Right, brook trout
Ran
fishing,
around the
all
woods
that
out
stuff.
back.
So
Yes.
if the older generation doesn't start, or even the younger generations, I mean, like you talking about Logan bringing a kid. I mean, for somebody his age to say, yep, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a kid youth hunting. That's a huge step, because that usually doesn't come in life with maturity until you're in your late 30s, 40s, getting on your 50s.
Become a parent yourself.
Your mentorship.
Yeah.
So there's a book about that. I think it's been talked about a lot on podcasts about the evolution of a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're starting to see that, but I wouldn't call it a slow pace, but it goes back to what we were talking about, how we're selfish of our own time.
You got it.
And we're losing that mentality of, hey, if we don't start transitioning these kids into loving what we once loved, eventually it's going to be gone, not because we want it to be, just because time's going to make it go away.
You got it. Yeah. No, I've had dozens of encounters with people over the years, especially with the advent of social media. They said, you should be proud of what you've done with your kid, because we see it's nonstop. He's legitimately my best friend.
Yeah.
It's everything. There isn't a day he's not Snapchatting me. I can reach him on Snapchat, try to call him on the phone, he won't answer.
Right.
But usually he's Snapchatting me about something, hunting or fishing every day.
Right.
Yeah. He's out tapping trees. He hears his first gobble. He's going to try and record it to me during maple season. So
absolutely.
It's that lifestyle that, as we put in our mission, conservation education, we want to keep people involved in how do we keep this going, because the numbers are sliding by the hour.
That's part of the National Wild Turkey Federation's thing, is preserving the hunting heritage.
Right.
Yes.
And we're evolving all the time too. It's crazy. And I'm sure there might be some guys listening to this that still to this day hate the fact that the National Wild Turkey Federation changed the logo.
Yeah.
To me, that's the farthest thing from my mind, because that's not truly what it's about. But everything needs a facelift once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? Whether you agree with it and you think it looks good or however, you know what? I get it. They were trying to make it seem less busy. However, I liked the old logo. I liked the old logo that was even before
the turkey
way back.
But
the flying turkey was one I remember.
Everything we have to accept change too. And when I started doing this, it was save the habitat, save the hunt.
Sure.
That initiative now has been improved and is now healthy habitat, healthy hunt.
Yep.
So, the focus is a little different, but it's still the same goals.
Absolutely.
So, and that's on improving the habitat and wildlife, and
and people don't think also, there becomes issues within state agencies, and we don't have a lot of pull, but certain things that went on with S258, other things, our biologists and people that work through the NWTF will go ahead and write letters to lobby people in Montpelier, hey, biologically and conservation wise, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
This is what all of our information shows, all of our studies show. What you're talking about will have a negative impact on many, many other animals within the ecosystem.
Yeah. And that in turn affects what every outdoorsman may or may not be able to do in this state in years to come. And we were talking before we aired tonight about the battles that we have right here in good old Montpelier, Vermont, and the factions that are there that are trying to change our way of life. And we have to dig our heels in, but we have to get people involved.
Right.
We've
Well,
gotta
and
get
that's where the memberships become important because
Power of
it's
numbers.
absolutely.
exactly
Power of
that's
numbers.
exactly the point.
We can say, hey, we got 2,000, or I'd love to say even more, but we have 2,000 members in this state that they don't want to follow your narrative.
right.
Yeah.
Or they even levy it and be like, listen, we speak as a whole from the National Wild Turkey Federation.
Right.
We have, this is just a fictional or just a made up number, I'll say, of we have 2 million members that would want to disagree or argue with the fact that you're bringing forward.
Sure.
And, but it's way more professional the way they write those out for people. But it's that power in numbers that really stands for it is, wow, they have, okay, this is a well-known organization that has taken the time to write a letter saying they're opposed to what is being brought forward.
Right. Sure.
So
Yep.
it's important, but that's, I have this conversation with Carter all the time. And the thing I like to say is get some skin in the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it's funny. I dated a girl one time that said to me, she goes, don't you think this is a little ridiculous? She goes, you put all this, all this effort forward and all this, you spend an extra, on your membership. And she goes, what, for what? She goes, you buy your hunting license, don't you? And I'm like, that's a different kind of spending.
Exactly.
I'm like, that doesn't go for the same thing.
Yep.
I was like, that it doesn't work like that. I was like, but that's the kind of mentality really that a lot of people
90%
have.
people have.
That they have.
Yeah, I bought my license. I did enough.
Yep.
Exactly.
Or I bought a habitat stamp through Fish and Wildlife.
Yep.
Right.
And that's great because I just got the email. They raised a lot of money this year with the habitat stamps.
Sure. Right.
But there's always something more. And the fights we have going on against everything we love,
If we let off the gas, we're
every
gonna lose
$20,
it.
$30, $40, you
So
get
that actually jogged my memory and it brought back something. So Birdseye had the opportunity to acquire a certain amount of acreage to add on to that state chunk of land.
Yep.
So the Fish and Wildlife Department reached out to us and we dug into our super fund and I think we donated another 2,000, which was really peanuts compared to the 1-point-something million that they needed to acquire this property. But the fact is something's better than nothing.
Yep.
Now, the point that I was trying to get at it with this is that $2,000 could be $10,000 if we had 5,000 members,
Sure.
throughout the state, or it could be 20,000 or 30,000, if we had, 10,000.
Sure.
If we could get all 20,000 turkey hunters in the state to spend $35 on a membership, think of the power, that
you
we
got.
would have
Absolutely.
and the things that we could change in this state.
Yep.
So-
Making the habitat worth it on public land that we all get to enjoy.
It's and I don't want to get out on a political tyrant here, but a name came up that really hit home to me because he made the point. He goes, like S258, that for an example. Mike Covey said to me, he goes, if you could get all 78,000 registered licensed deer hunters in the state of Vermont to come out and vote, you would never see a law brought forward like this again.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Amen.
It would never happen.
Yep.
It wouldn't even be close.
Yep.
Half of those people that are in Montpelier wouldn't even have a job there.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
It really is. Pete, you have to vote.
Yep.
You
have to get involved.
If you love something, you have to be a
I
voice.
think we are starting, and like you said, without going to a political rant, but look what just went on in our nation, and I think people are starting to see that.
Yeah.
The turn is happening.
The turn is happening.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
That obviously discussion for another night.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
your dates of your banquet. I don't want to cut
Okay.
it too short,
No,
but I don't
you're
want
good.
people to miss it. So,
March 29th,
yep.
2025, at the Rutland Recreation Community Center, which is the former College of St. Joseph's. Doors will open at 4 o'clock. I believe dinner is at 5:30.
Yep.
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 And how do they buy tickets in advance?
Okay, so the easiest way and the best way for us, you can go on to nwtf.org/events and then pull up the state of Vermont on there in the drop down and we will be the second one on there, I believe.
Right. Yep. You click banquets,
Yep.
and it will pop up all banquets that are in the state, and you're looking for Southern Vermont limb hangers.
Yep.
And please don't throw a shadow eye at Brett's banquet. You
Nope.
know, they have a
He
banquet.
has a great banquet.
He has a great banquet over there in Quechee too, and he'd appreciate your, you know, if
Absolutely.
you're in that area and want to go to a banquet. Josh Butler, if you've never eaten at the Maple Angus, I know all of you guys, I mean, phenomenal food. Yes, there is a bar there. Again, we will, if you need a ride home, we will do whatever we need
Get a
to do
hold
to
of one
get
of
you
us.
home.
We will get somebody
Right.
to make sure you get home.
But it's just a great night, great fun, lots going on there. And it kind of gets you out of those winter blues.
It does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's kind of nice. I was able to get it a little later this year, which was when it typically used to be. And we're kind of getting into that.
Right on the
spring
edge.
thaw. Turkeys are starting to get out to the fields. It
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
gets
going out
people
doing some
thinking.
scouting. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
It kind of sucks because there's a couple of guys I know that would come, but a lot of them are starting to get out and hunt in other states down south by then.
You're right,
Sure.
right.
Yep. Hey, you're crossing over that edge, but you
I
got to
know.
do what you got to do. And that was why when I started looking at my calendar, when was the prime time to get you guys in? And Andy has just switched up our airing times. And just looking at analogies, what was getting our best following. We have been doing Mondays. We're now doing Wednesdays. So
Yep.
it's going to give a week and a half, 2 weeks ahead of your banquet. That's by the time this will air. And we want to thank everybody that is listening to it. As I'm sure the guys would say, if you're coming, bring a friend.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
Bring your family, friends, cousins, anybody.
Yep.
We will guarantee you will have a good time.
Absolutely.
Just come once, show up, you will have a good time.
Yes, 100%.
Can't thank you guys enough for taking the time to travel up here.
Oh,
when you told me how your daily schedule was going today, so I'm not sweating mine. I thought I was
I've
gonna
been
be
to
like,
Burlington
"Hey,
and back, stopped at Rack and Reel, worked this morning, got back, worked again.
there you go.
Then when he got there, like I said, I was washing deer capes when he got there for tomorrow morning.
Well, there was a public meeting tonight scheduled at our high school here, and when I came by and saw them parking on Route 7, I said, well, guess they got plenty of votes there tonight. That's another subject in its own, but
Yeah.
I was able to get over here a little quicker and
Well,
talk
we
business with
appreciate
Andy.
we
so.
do appreciate you having us and
we absolutely
letting us talk about the NWTF. I think that's one thing the NWTF has said in the past, and this is as a whole as an organization is we don't do a good enough job telling our story.
You got
So this is huge, and I think I know Joe Rogan's talked about it a lot. Is the podcasting world is opening doors that people had never really expected. So,
sure.
Again, we appreciate you having us.
Thank
We
you guys.
appreciate you
We
guys very
encourage all
much.
listeners to share it up, tell your friends, and listen to New England Outdoor Life. We
And
thank
that
you guys
was
for
the one
joining us.
last thing I wanted to say. If you guys have any questions, concerns, anything, please feel free to reach out to Chris or myself. You can, if you want to look for updates or see anything, we do have a Facebook page. It's called NWTF Southern Vermont Limb
I was
Hangers.
going to bring that up. Thank you.
So, and you can see like some of the event stuff on there, some of the stuff from the past, pictures to kind of get an idea if that's not your thing or if it's your thing. So we still encourage you to at least try it once.
Yep.
You know, so
Absolutely.
come out and check
We'll get
it out.
all your info too, what you want linked, and we'll link it to the show notes too, so you
Okay.
can look at the
Okay,
show
that'd be
notes
great.
for some
Yeah,
of those
we
links.
can actually
Absolutely.
probably give them a shortcut link that they can click on,
Right into
you
the-
know, so they
Yeah,
can bring it
the
right
different
to
things.
ticket
Yeah,
sales.
it's got my contact information, yours, I believe, still. So
Yep.
it's like they can get a hold of us because I get, there's some people don't want to buy tickets online, but if you don't feel comfortable doing it or don't want to, get a hold of me. Let me know you're definitely going to come. I can put you down as a walk-in, but you're definitely going to
Put
be
you on the
there.
board. There you
That
go.
way I know I've ordered your meals and
Sure.
you're going to be able
Right.
to get your food. I'm going to be able to order enough prizes and stuff for games, because like I said, I want everybody to have a really good time when they're there.
Right.
Good enough. Well, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
gentlemen.
Thank you,
safe
guys.
travels to you. And I think so the weather's going to hold off till after midnight, so you shouldn't
Yeah,
have too bad
that's
with
all
that.
right.
Yeah.
But it's been every other week or a couple times a week with storms.
Looks like
this winter,
mostly
but
rain.
Yeah. So that is
Just-
the role of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
We just roll with the punches. Well, folks, we want to thank you very much for listening in to our latest episode, and always new things. Stay tuned to New England Outdoor Life. Follow us along on Facebook, YouTube, etc. And we look forward to our next episode. Till then, see you soon.
Hey there, thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to head over to newenglandoutdoorlife.com to sign up for our mailing list. And while you're at it, check out thirdalarmcharters.com. That's third with the number 3. Have a great week, and we'll see you outdoors.